Filip Hodas. Did I do it right?
Yes, you did.
Okay, we got close, right? We got close?
Yeah, it was very close, very close.
Okay. Welcome to Origin Stories.
Oh, thanks for the invite. I'm glad to be here.
And thank you for joining us. And so the first question, just the icebreaker, and you can say whatever you want. You can go to wherever you want in your history. If I were to ask you, where does your origin story begin? What would you say back?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I don't know. I mean, I was always kinda into like artsy stuff. So I guess that like when I was a little kid, I just used to draw like all the time. So probably somewhere around that. But if we're talking about more like my current sort of like career path, I think that was, I don't know, like when I was like 13, I wanted to do like a game or a movie or something, and I was walking in this like bookstore with my mom, and I saw this book with like, oh, 3ds Max, and that's one of the tools that is used for like movie VFX. So I nagged her into like get it for me, and yeah, so I started like messing about with that, but yeah, that didn't pan out because I was just like too young and kind of not patient enough because everything took ages back then.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm that sort of was my first real contact with doing something like what I'm doing now, and then I left it for a bit, but then I came back, and yeah, it was very nice to go back to this and sort of like finally manage to do something with say like 3D thing. I really liked it ever since I was a kid.
The 3D thing. So wait, let's go back to, I'm interested in this first project. So you go to the store, you find this, you don't necessarily stick with it for long enough to procure your movie at the time. Now, is this a future project? Is this something that you'll bring back one day?
No. Oh no, I matured since and realized that it would be so much work that I'm just not the right type of person for like these behemoth projects that would span over several years. But yeah, I mean, I actually don't think that I kind of lost interest in movies very quickly when I started messing with the program. So I got in touch with a bunch of like other kids my age, and we were trying to do like this soldier game. Oh, it was awful. But yeah, but I have no interest in like games as well. But I think that like this sort of like game and movie sort of influence is still kind of like visible in what I do, like, or what I've been doing for the past couple of years. So it always like keep little bits of influence from this and that, and like kind of mush it together.
The first thing that came to my mind, and we'll get more into the art itself in a little bit, but your recent trailers, I've called them movie grade, but the trailers for some of your art that's been dropping on SuperRare have been incredible. They've had dramatic music, they've had cuts and
thank you.
and yeah.
I mean, it's actually, I mean, it's kind of embarrassing to just admit it, but I was, the reason they're so like dramatic and like movie-like was that I wanted to get some cool music, but I wasn't really like sure where could I get some music that would be cool for like 15 to 20-ish seconds clip. So I just went on Audio Jungle and typed in like dramatic movie music. And there was this one with like this clock in it, and I really liked that because I thought that it fit really well to the Lego piece, because that's sort of like a bit of a nostalgia and like time. So I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I really like that. So actually the reason why it's like so dramatic was because like I really just like this one particular music bit that I found on Audio Jungle. So but thanks so much. I'm really glad you like that.
I mean, it works so well, and you would never know. I mean, you could have easily told me that you took, 5 hours to find, going down the deepest, darkest rabbit hole to procure the perfect audio track and overlaid it with great care.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, I'm not really. I usually just stick to 3D, so I'm not really very good at kind of like, not very good. I'd say like I'm not very used to creating stuff like this, like like trailers or like these little things. So it was a bit of a, yeah, it was a bit random, to be honest, but I'm really glad that it came out this. It's maybe a bit overly dramatic considering like the actual like pieces it's promoting, but I think it's kind of like a funny juxtaposition of like the like huge epic soundtrack with like drop of like piece of artwork or something like that.
It works. It definitely caught my eye. So keep doing what you're doing on that front. But hey, I want to pull your attention back to something. So speaking of origin stories, something that I found, your Instagram account is wildly viewed, right? I think you have almost 600,000 followers on Instagram. I know it seems like you're transitioning a bit more of your effort over to Twitter lately.
Yeah.
And definitely doing some wonderful things in terms of dropping those trailers, interacting with the crypto art community. So I've loved your recent trend on Twitter. But looking back to your Instagram account, it's just this wealth of past work. And there's such diversity, there's such evolution, there's such experimentation on multiple artistic fronts. But what I did is I scrolled all the way back to your first Instagram post ever. That's why we're here on Origin Stories. Do you remember your first Instagram post ever?
Yeah, actually, because my Instagram account was before I started uploading to it like more artwork stuff, was just my like personal Instagram.
Yep.
So there was like a lot of weird posts that would be fine on personal Instagram with like 200 friends following it, but so I always go back and kind of like try to filter it out. So I know that the first post I think is like a little bit of a sketching thing.
It is.
But it wasn't actually the first post. I deleted a couple ones before that because I think the first one was like when I moved into my like first flat where I lived alone. I made like a horrible mess when cooking or something. So it was just like some haha funny post about how horrible cook I am. So like, oh dude, I can't
get this out of there
for thousands of people to see. So I just like took it down and yeah.
Well, the first post that I saw was perfect. It just says sketch time board, and it's a really nice sketch, right? Of I think it's like a house that's split. It's worth checking out.
Thank you.
When we get this Origin Story site launched, I will link to that Instagram post if it's cool with you. I just think it's a really interesting, and it's, by the way, November 16th, 2012. November 16th, 2012. Now over 8 years ago, an awesome sketch. Maybe a future NFT.
Oh, I mean, the thing is that like this sketch, I mean, I still kind of like it, like considering I'm really not very good at drawing. So I'm still kind of, I kind of like it considering how that I've never really sort of went more deeper into it. But it's kind of funny that it was just like a very throwaway post, that it's just like very, very much a coincidence that this happened to end up as like the first post that actually quite a few people like scrolled all the way down to see. Yep. And it's now like getting more likes than I had followers back then. So it's kind of like, whoa, that's pretty random thing to get, like, this sort of time travel thing almost.
Maybe, who knows, maybe as the legend of Philip grows and grows and grows. I mean, it's already there, but as it grows and grows and grows, maybe you go back and I don't know, maybe you do something with it in your current style.
I mean, yeah, that might be cool actually. Oh,
maybe one
might
day.
Be like a cool NFT, like two pieces, like one 2012 and one maybe 2022, like 10-year difference. Ooh,
I mean, just
nice.
Throwing it at you. I mean, hey, you know where my heart is, right? I think I've been pretty clear. I came into this space several months ago as an investor first, and I very quickly and rapidly grew my appreciation and sort of have come over now to why we're here. This is my passion, right? Storytelling on behalf of artists, and I'm obsessed, and I just love the context and story behind it. And so to see you maybe in the future bring back what was literally one of your first, if not the first sketches, well, one of the first that made the light of day, right? That you put out there into the public eye. But to see you do something 8, 9, 10 years later in terms of bringing that to life, it's an incredible evolution piece.
Yeah, I mean, that's really nice. I think I'm gonna do that. I'm not sure if I'll be patient enough to wait another year, so it's exactly 10 years, but maybe I will. It would definitely be cooler if I waited. So thanks for the idea. I'm definitely stealing that one.
It's all yours. It's all yours. Yeah. So, hey, going off onto a random fun note, because it is still recent history. So just to deviate a little bit from the storytelling path, you were in the news very recently, a couple weeks ago, because of the POC drop. So you and Gavin Shapiro had your moment in the POC sunlight. care to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, I mean, so that was kind of funny because I was just leaving my office and I was like, oh, maybe just one last check, to see what's up on Twitter. So I open it, I go, ooh, it's the PAX puzzle. Well, okay, let me check it out. So I was like reading it, I was like, oh, I have no clue what this is about. And then I saw like the little flickering stuff by the end, and then I saw how like the 3 squares flicker, like, oh, that must be like some sort of QR or something. So I'm like, oh, how do you kind of like flatten the frames to one thing? I was like, oh yeah. And I remember that I did that with like in Photoshop, so you can like load a video into layers. So I just did that, and I'm like, oh shit, there is QR. Wow, that's nice. Oh, but I'm definitely not the first one, right? So I look up the tweet. I was like, well, nobody's saying that. Oh shit. So I start like scrambling, trying to click like, oh, what does it say? What does it say? Oh, do I have a typo in it? Oh no, please God, no. Yeah, so that was very, very nice. Like when he tweeted that I won it, I was like mind blown, because I was honestly not, I never really participated in many like sort of like not challenges, but like many I'm not sure if that was considered giveaway, I guess, but I never really won anything like ever, as far as I can remember, in this fashion. So I was like, wow, holy shit, that's pretty cool. So then I was like, oh no, and I like refreshed the page, and I think someone DM'd me like congratulating me, like, wow, dude, that's so cool. And like, oh shit. So it seems that Gavin won. I was like, oh no, what? Oh god damn it. Yeah, so that was but it was like really, I don't think I ever had such a dramatic leaving the office story ever before.
Yeah, so just to bring people into the exactly how this thing went down. So, obviously there's this mega drop, and the like you said, the QR code puzzle is released. And oh, by the way, did you have any typos as you were dramatically and fast racing?
No, I double and triple checked. So I was like, oh shit. Then I was like, oh, why did I double and triple check? I should have just hit enter the minute I typed it down.
So then Philip posts, it's announced officially that you won. But then there's some sleuthing behind the scenes and people saying, oh, time-stamping the seconds to when Gavin posted it, time-stamping the seconds to when you posted it. And ultimately, it was transferred to Gavin, but it was also said that it will be made up to you as well. So I imagine even though you didn't win, you still very much won.
Oh, yeah. I consider that still a massive win, just like, to be in like touch with Park, who's like such a huge name in the like crypto scene. So as you mentioned, that was like very nice to be like in the spotlight in that way. I know that it's not like how to say it, it's not like a huge thing, but considering that I'm fairly new to the space, and I never been very active on Twitter, so I don't really have even a huge following on Twitter that could like help me kind of like get into space quick or something like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm really happy just for this. And Puck is very kind that he wants to make it up to me in some way, so that's very kind of him. But to be honest, I don't really feel like he should. I don't think that there was any, not like should, that he like needs to like right. Phrase it better. I get that. Because I just lost fair and square, and to be honest, I can totally understand that. Like when he was getting the notifications, I bet there was a lot of notifications.
There were a lot,
and I know like really that it's impossible to really like. Even sometimes when I like post something and I try to find the notifications, and I have like fraction of his following and fraction of like engagement under a single post of mine, like this one had. So yeah, I'm very happy just to be like just that I had like my 5 minutes of crypto fame for one evening. That was very, very nice.
I was cheering for you. I was in the seat where I kind of like you said, understood that it was a QR code, but I did not have the Photoshop skills to figure out how to put those pieces together to get it. And when I saw that you were announced, I was like, yes, there goes Philip, So it was just kind of a fun night and a fun story. And again, you still definitely won. But let's go with the crypto art scene. So you had just said, all right, so we had touched on your Instagram account. you build this wonderful portfolio on Instagram. You gain this incredible followership. Like I said, I recommend that everybody scroll through Filip's Instagram account just to see year over year the evolution, stylistically, all the experimentation that's been done. When does it strike you? I mean, I guess you did a lot of client work in there, right? You did a lot of high level and well thought of client work in there. But when does it strike you, crypto art, NFTs? This is something that I need to explore.
Well, I mean, I was always kind of like interested in cryptocurrencies because when I was, I don't know, when I was like 16, 17, so like 10 years ago almost, I had a bunch of friends who were like really into like underground music and into like computers. So all of them were like, "Oh, dude, you gotta check out this Bitcoin thing." Like, yeah, whatever. And so they kept going on about it, and then one of them was helping me out with building a new computer. I was like, "Dude, this computer is so good. You should definitely do Bitcoin with it, like mine." And I was like, "Yeah, right. I'm gonna waste my computer time with mining Bitcoin." But you know, I never really jumped in back then. But it was always kind of like I was always in presence of people who are really into it. And then I think in like 2017, when Bitcoin made the news in like sort of like summer / fall, when it started like rising quite dramatically, I was like, okay, maybe my friends were right. So I kind of like started getting more into cryptocurrencies, and I also happened to come across like NFTs. Not like crypto art, but like the, how to say, like the concept of NFTs. And I tried like do a little bit of CryptoKitties, but I never really go anywhere, because then it crashed. I was like, oh yeah, well,
you still have two, right? You still have two?
Yeah, but I'm not sure they're worth anything. But yeah, but I do. So when I saw like crypto art, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, like utilization of the like NFT concept for this. But at the same time, I was a bit like unsure how does it work in terms of like the ownership of the work, because it took me a while to understand that it's just the token that's being like sold, not like rights to the work or like the necessarily even the file. That the file is just sort of like, you know, like a goodie that comes with it, but like the value is in the token. So I was kind of like, oh, I don't know, like, you know, what if I want to do something with the work like down the line, and you know that, but I sold it on like blockchain, and that it's, you know, I'm gonna like lose it or something. So it took a while for me to kind of like get it, but then Slime Sunday Mike reached out to me and is like, hey dude, I got these guys from like Nifty Gateway. I showed them your work, like really into it. Would you be down to like getting in touch with them and stuff? Like, okay, I will just, you know, have a call with them, see how it goes. So I got on call with them, you know, and I kind of like liked where it might go. So I gave it a go, and you know, then I saw, of course, then I think like few weeks after this, the first Beeple drop happened. Yeah. I was like, oh shit, now I'm definitely doing this. Like, yeah, this thing is happening.
Now it has arrived.
Yeah, I'm a bit, you know, I'm a bit sad that I was kind of, not sad, but that I was so hesitant in the beginning, because, you know, maybe that was like very not crucial, but you know, that maybe I kind of like missed a lot of the initial kind of like wave when it like started happening in like October last year, I think, when it started like getting really big, because my drop date was in December, so it was kind of like already you know, when it sort of took off, if that makes sense. But yeah, I've really sort of, in the meantime, before the drop and like sort of after it, I started more looking into like the whole NFT space and like the crypto art scene, and I found out that it's like actually you know, there's way more to it than just like making a bank selling art, you know, that, because that's what's basically, I think, most people see at first, because like, I mean, I think it's sort of like also the way how it's generally presented, because like that's how you get people in, like saying huge numbers and like big, like, oh, that was sold for like 60K. I was like, holy shit, 60K.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, I found out that I came for the money and stayed for the people.
That's how it
That
goes, right? Isn't that incredible? I agree with you.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
agree with you because there is a lot of flash and bang to it at first, right? But then very quickly you see the depth. Very quickly, you see the diversity, and a lot of times that money passion then flips over to artistic passion, which is a pretty incredible thing. And yeah, the rabbit hole extends very, very far. So to go back, all right, so you had this conversation with Nifty Gateway. One of the things that's fascinating to me, one of the questions I'm excited to ask you, how did you decide that your first drop in the crypto art NFT space would be dead memes? And so there are these, these incredible skulls. There's that are then brought to life. So there's stills, and then they're brought to life. There's the LOL face, the rage face, and the troll face. But how was that chosen as your first drop?
Well, I think it was because I was talking to Tommy from Nifty, a brilliant guy, by the way.
Shout
really,
out
like,
Tommy Kimmelman. Love the guy.
And he mentioned in one email that like some of the collectors mentioned that they would like to collect some of like my skull series, and I was like, okay. But I don't know. I at first had this like sort of wrong feeling if I released something I already did. That is just like, like kind of like rehash it. I felt that it might look a bit like lazy or something. So like, nah, I want to do something, something that's like similar, but something more connected to the internet. So I was kind of like thinking, so obviously like Ethereum, Bitcoin logos and stuff like that came to mind. But I was like, yeah, that's a bit, on the nose, if that makes sense. Like that's bit. I didn't want it to seem like it's like just trendy thing or something like that. So I was trying to kind of like remember what could like be dead on the internet. I was like, oh, dead memes, obviously. So then I remembered like when I was in grammar school, we used to like send each other like rage comics all the bloody time, like all the time. So I was like, yeah, I mean, those memes are kind of dead, right? So then I was like, and they also have like fairly interesting shape of the face.
Yeah.
Because one thing I realized while I was working on the Cartoon Fossil series with like the SpongeBob and stuff, is that some of the cartoons, if you try to make them like realistic skull, they're not very recognizable as a skull, because like for instance, like the Mickey Mouse, or like I did Minnie, because obviously you don't have bones in your ears. So if you like subtract the, distinctive ears, it's like, okay, now it's just weird mouse skull that nobody will be able to tell what it is. So I also like sort of try to figure out if these would look good and recognizable on their own. And I thought, yeah, the memes have like ticked all the boxes. I think the LOL face was one that was a bit hard to. I thought that the teeth like popping out would be very recognizable, but then I was like, it's not really. So I was kind of like playing with the option that I would do like a forever alone face with like the big chin. But that looked kind of more recognizable, but then was the problem like I would like to do the tears, but skulls wouldn't have tears, so that's like a big part of the whole thing.
There's a lot of thought that went into this concept. I like this.
Yeah, I mean, I always try to kind of like, because I didn't used to think of concepts before too much when I did like more like I used to do dailies for like a year, so I didn't have much time to think of like some concepts and like series and how to tie everything together. And often what ended up happening was that I stumbled upon a cool idea, but since I didn't have time to really think it through, it came out a bit lackluster. And then like few years later, I was like, oh man, this could have been such a cool image if I just given it a little bit more thought, or like a little bit more polish. So yeah, so these days when I'm doing like these series, I try to kind of like really think about it first, and kind of like visualize it. How could it work? What could work? What couldn't? And even like do some tests. I think I even sculpted like a rough skull for the forever alone face, just like see how it would look, because sometimes, you know, you can be surprised that the skull, like, wow, this looks better than expected, or like, oh, this doesn't work at all. So I always like try to do a little sketch and see how that goes.
And you know my favorite face, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was like so excited to see someone was like so pumped about like the, you know, the rage face and everything, because I think that was my favorite as well. But I showed it like to a bunch of people, and like I cannot recognize, like, what? I mean, dude, you definitely know rage face. Yeah, I don't know if it looks that similar though. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? So it was nice to be sort of like validated by someone that, like, yeah, I can recognize it and I like it.
Yes, that was the one that just jumped out. So I remember, you know, back when you were doing that drop, I had gotten into writing threads surrounding some of the different Nifty Gateway drops, and I remember you were dropping. Am I going to get this right? Were you dropping with Billelis?
I was dropping with Billelis.
Yeah. Yes.
I hope I'm not mispronouncing it.
Yeah. but it was so perfect because, you know, obviously there was the skull similarity, but they were done so different, so wildly differently. Obviously both of your drops were very successful from the Nifty sense. But yeah, I remember writing a thread, and I think I tied you both into the same thread, but went through. And as I was exploring your history, yeah, I was just, again, to go back to something I said earlier, just fascinated with where you came from. Just how much you had done, right? How much you had done prior to crypto art, prior to your first drop. And then, you know, scrolling back through, I mean, I think we have to touch on at least a little bit. To me, it may be even more signature than anything else that you've done, including even the skulls, your dystopian style.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, with the Billelis thing, I just was kind of funny because I didn't know I was dropping on the same day as Billelis. And when I found out, I was like, oh, fuck me, like that guy is like a skull master. What the hell am I supposed to do? Like, so then that's also what's kind of funny about the crypto space, is that, you know, I started getting in touch with other 3D artists. You know, I known him before. I obviously known his work and everything, but we never really talked. So I started also like talking with like artists I already knew but never had like a chance to get in touch. So now we are like in like Discords and Twitter and like and DMs, like just like sharing stuff. So it's really nice also from that point. But that was just a bit of a like tangent I remembered when you mentioned it.
Yeah, and you guys are always tied together in you know, in crypto art history, right? Always dropped on the same day. Similar theme with incredibly unique styles of execution and expression of that theme. So I like that pairing a lot. And yeah, shout out Billelis, like Billelis a lot in his work as well.
Yeah. Oh, and so with the dystopian stuff, yeah, I mean, it was definitely because up until that point, I mostly did like more sort of like abstract stuff, or not necessarily abstract, but more like sort of like surreal / abstract. I had a bunch of like pop culture things before, but never really dug any deeper. But then I was trying to learn like this new texturing tool that would allow me to create like more detailed like surface details, sort of like bolts, rivets, like various panels and vents and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, I really want to do some like cool robot or like some cool thing, but I was still trying to do like, you know, a lot of images in like very short amount of time. Like, but it needs to be simple. Like I can't spend like week modeling a robot. Like, what could I do? Like, oh, I could do like some cylindrical shape, you know, like with some cables coming out of it. Like, oh, that kind of looks like can. Wow, well, let's do a can. That's pretty cool. So it sort of started like this happy accident. And then I sort of like built it from there and just always remembered some stuff, you know, like for instance, with the like McDonald's, I used to, you know, because in like Czech Republic we didn't really I think the first McDonald's was open in like 1992 or something, 1990 maybe. So it was, you know, McDonald's was still pretty like new thing. And I remember when I was a kid, whenever I would go for like McDonald's birthday party. I was like, oh yeah, it's happening.
It's a spot.
I'd always
It's a place
get
to
Happy
be.
Meal, and then I would always get like the wrong toy. I was like, God damn it. So we would go back to the like tail and like, oh, could we swap the toy, please? Oh, we don't have that one. God damn it. But so yeah, so I remember that I was like, yeah, that could be fun as well. So I started sort of adding like these sort of like maybe like bit of nostalgic memories, and this bit of also like I don't know. I don't want. Well, the thing is, like, I don't always, or not always. I always try to avoid getting like too deep into the images or like the meaning behind them, because like some of them were just fairly like lucky coincidence. Some of them have like some sort of like sentimental value for me. But I always like when I post an image to see how sort of like people just see different stuff in it, and like see some of their stories in it, or see like completely different thing in it. And I think that's really cool to see. I think it's I mean in books, or like in like this, I think it's called like death of the author, that basically once the work is released into like public, the author doesn't have say anymore about what is it supposed to mean. So yeah, I actually kind of really like that approach. So it's yeah, so I'm really glad that this sort of grew on its own, and people on Reddit were like figuring out some crazy worlds, like how could this tie into each other, what's the story. And yeah, I really like that.
It's funny. The first origin story interview was Fuckrender, and he and I were talking about each piece and the story behind each piece, and how some art pieces don't necessarily have like this uber specific deep story. But then we pulled back, and on the meta level, every piece has your story, right? And that's what I love about it, right? So even if a piece that you release, there's no, incredibly, like, you can't sit there and write a thesis about why you chose to do XYZ. It still represents your entire artistic journey up until that moment, and your expression of that through this means. So I like that, the death of the author, it's your story coming forth, you put it forth, and then you step back and step away. And what I like so much about these dystopian pieces, yeah, you're bringing in components to your childhood. There's definitely that nostalgic component, and you're framing it for people, but you're also dropping these little words or phrases or Easter eggs within most of them. And that's, to me personally, something that I found very charming. And I've told you off air, but just to say here, your first SuperRare piece, Childhood Memories, which is the expression of your Lego, like the Lego dystopian vibe. I didn't even know that if you zoom in, and this became very clear in that dramatic trailer, right, that you offered for that let go, right, that you would change the Lego to let go. I found that to be such a subtle and very charming addition to the piece.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I sort of came to appreciate more because like one of my favorite artists, Cornelius Dammrich, he creates this like incredibly realistic, super high-end polished 3D scenes. He always dropped these like little stories and little like jokes and stuff into his pieces. And also a bunch of other people are doing it as well. But specifically with him, I always really like that there is like sort of like additional story. It's either like in the name or in like something in the scene. And I always felt, not always, but with like after some time, I kind of felt that some of the more abstract or like surreal pieces were kind of like missing this little bit of like extra, little cherry on top. So I started trying to, add these little hints of like some, like breadcrumb trail or something within the images. And with the Lego piece, it was actually because when I did it, I just had like Lego because it was like I think I was like sort of almost a daily piece, but the version I had, it like I couldn't really use it for any of the trailer stuff, and I think it didn't even have like high res enough version rendered. And since it was done quite a while ago, the piece look a bit different, like because the render engine had like new version, and I reckon it just rendered it a bit differently. So I was like, oh, I mean, I can like do a little bit of polishing, and I feel like that adding like a little like this breadcrumb in it would be cool. And it was actually very very random when I came up with it. I was just like thinking about how could I like tie something into it but without being too on the nose. And yeah, I thought that this was quite fun. I also really like bad puns and stuff like that, so so this was almost like a combination of like a bad pun but something that actually had some meaning within the piece. So yeah, I was quite happy that this sort of lucky coincidence happened.
It works, and I agree with you. I think it's this beautiful combination of this pun and also, something that, yeah, is nostalgic and you can think fairly deeply on if you go back into your own history. Obviously, to interpret it then, however, the person on the other end wants to.
Yeah.
If you were to go through your dystopian series, right, and everything that you've put out there on Instagram, can you give us one other random Easter egg that comes to mind, right? And in any of them, but just one thing that hits you as, oh, I did that because, or I quite like that. It's one of my favorites.
I mean, it's I kind of liked. I mean, this is not like super deep, but when I did the SpongeBob piece,
Yeah.
I kind of like did it, and I was like, this looks like some like SpongeBob, like after his like famous career, he went off the rails, and he's like high on meth under the bridge. And I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. So and then I started like adding these like little graffiti in. So I like crack pants and stuff like that, and I kind of like that because when I posted it, I didn't really give it much like deep thought or like too much value. But then when I think it was on Reddit or some like meme page, and it's sort of like everyone noticed it, and it was like all the comments were just like this one silly graffiti I did, like pretty off the cuff thing. And so that was kind of funny how these little things can then like pretty much define the image for like other people. But I'm trying to think of something more kind of like
no depth necessary. I think that's perfect.
I mean, because the thing is, like, I've done it like on and off for like 3 years, the series. So to be honest, at some point I don't even kind of like remember all the pieces like as they were created. But
well, it speaks to the breadth of your work.
Yeah, or my bad memory.
one or the other. Well, hey, let me go here. So your process of creation, right? You've been doing this wonderful job recently of bringing your process into the limelight. I've definitely appreciated and seen it. Anything from going through a time lapse of your creation process on your computer to some of the framing to some just as really like the Oz behind the curtains, opening the curtains for everyone to see. I think it's again adding context and adding story. So with your process in mind, what can you share about how you create your work? Because you're creating these trailers, you're now spending more time interacting on Twitter in crypto art, you're releasing these phenomenal pieces, you have drops planned, which I hope you can get to, maybe a little teaser of what might be coming from Philip. But in terms of your process, what can you share in terms of how you work?
So this changed a lot over the years. I always kind of like experimented with new ways of kind of like getting the results I wanted. But like lately, I've been really enjoying. It's called Photogrammetry. It's basically you take your camera and just take a lot of pictures of something from all angles, and then you kind of like feed it into a computer program, and it can kind of like from the images it like scans patches of pixels and can then deduct the position of camera in space when the picture was taken. And then it sort of can, thanks to like trigonometry, calculate the mesh, the object in like 3D. So this is a very cool way of kind of like speeding up things, because 3D is generally very slow. If you want to create stuff from scratch, which I tried to do for a really long time, but it just takes so long that I'm sort of trying to figure out a quicker way of getting where I want to get. And but I've been messing with it for like a couple of years, but I never really found that much usage to it. But lately I've been experimenting with like scanning whole scenes of places I visit, and sort of like use those as a base, or even like exactly those places in 3D, and then add the like pieces to it, and kind of like make it, you know, add like graffiti, or make it more like futuristic or more run down, or, you know, change it a little bit here and there. And so this workflow it's been like a lot of fun. Unfortunately, due to coronavirus, haven't been able to travel as much as I would like to.
True.
But for instance, I've been to Porto in Portugal last year, and there were these like some I found a bunch of like old buildings with like closed windows, like with like wooden planks and stuff, and, you know, just scanning this, and then like kind of like revisiting the memory in like 3D, and being able to work with it and create something from it. That's you know, I've been really enjoying that a lot. I mean, as far as like the 3D process, like for the modeling, sculpting and stuff, I'm not sure how deep into the like technicalities do you want to get, but I mean, I generally work in a way that I either sculpt or model the like shape of the object I want to create. Then I take it to like a program where I can like flatten the surfaces into like a flat 2D plane, so you can paint the textures on it. And then I kind of like feed that back into like the main 3D application, where I like load, where I do this for all the other assets in the scene, and where I light it, add maybe like some haze or fog, or some like additional like foliage, or you know, rubbish on the floor, and kind of like put everything together that way. And yeah, and then I just like render it using Octane Render. It's like this tool that basically feeds the 3D objects and the textures into graphics card, and leaves it there to calculate the rays of the light, how they like cast the shadows, reflections, refractions, and stuff like that. And yeah, then it's just a bunch of waiting around until it's finished. And then I take it to like Photoshop, and sort of treat it as a photo, like somewhat similar to Lightroom, where I just like, you know, do like color correction, maybe add a little bit of like glow from the sun, or like a little bit of flare, or like glow on the highlights, and you know, just like these little finishing touches. And yeah, and that's it.
And that's the process. And how about, how do you frame that? So those are all the tools that you use, and how one plays into the other. How do you frame your process within a day, a week, and a month? You know, do you keep a relatively rigid work schedule, and or do you ramp it up towards a drop, and then kind of, you know, does it relax you after a drop? How does that flow?
So it's I'm very bad at keeping any schedule at all, because I'm very sort of passion driven person, I guess. That, you know, when I get into something, oh boy, I'm staying in my office until 7 a.m. and then like messing up my sleep schedule for next week, just because I wanted to like really get into it. So I usually approach it more of a, you know, of course I have like client work generally like during the day, so I work on that. And then in the free time, when I feel like, you know, when I feel the sort of, when I feel like I'm in the gonna reach the flow quickly, to get like into the mood to really start crunching on the personal piece, then I do. But some days it's not really working out. I try to force it, but some days it just doesn't work out. So the days when I don't feel very creative, I do more like the mundane stuff. So sometimes it's like modeling, you know, like a canister or something, you know, some very basic object that isn't really the hero in the scene, or like do the flattening the 3D surface into 2D, because that's like, you know, it's sort of creative because you have to be kind of like, often like you can do like cleverer ways of doing it, but generally it's very mundane. And when I feel creative, I, you know, usually go for either like sculpting or doing like texture work, which I really enjoy probably the most of the whole process, because that's for me when like the objects start like coming to life. Because when when it's just like a plain model without any texture, it kind of looks like, I don't know, like, you know, just like some sort of 3D printed thing, you know, like it's just white, no detail. But when you start adding like the layers of, you know, dust, grunge, dirt, rust, it sort of gives it more character, and it kind of like comes to life. So yeah, so in terms of scheduling, it's very much driven by how I feel at the moment, and also like what is required in order to finish the piece, because I have very short attention span, so I often kind of like have this you know, I mean, I kind of want to try starting new projects while I haven't finished the old ones. So I always try to kind of like get a bit of a tunnel vision on the one thing, and just like whatever I need to do, I will just do that, and to like push it forward. And yeah, I mean, in terms of drops, I think that it's, I mean, only done like one so far that was like really big prepared thing, in terms of like that the whole, all the images were like custom made for it and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, it worked pretty similar. Luckily, I had enough time to prepare it. So there was, so I could do a little bit of my wandering around about with different ideas and stuff like that.
I like that idea of because you're saying like I have a shorter attention span and you're very passion driven. That makes sense to me. You know, when the attention span fires up, when you get fired up about something, you just roll all in with that passion. Like you said, you can even be in the office until 7 a.m. seeing something to fruition. I can appreciate that. But the other thing on the reverse of that, in terms of like an actionable tip, you know, for somebody else, I really like what you're saying about when maybe your attention's isn't fired up. Maybe you're not necessarily passionate that day. Of course, we all have those types of days, but I like that you choose those days to work on the necessities, the more mundane things, that, like you said, the not the stars of the show within a piece, but the stuff that has to get done to really ultimately bring it all together and bring it to life. I like that differentiation between a day when you're fired up and then a day when, you know, we all go through the motions sometimes, but that you choose those days to focus on those minor details.
I mean, it's also, I think, a sort of, I don't think that this actually started as like conscious choice. I think it was more like I was kind of like trying to procrastinate on making big decisions, big creative decisions about like the hero asset or like the direction of the entire scene. Right. So I kind of like go into the safe space of doing the mundane stuff, where I know that because what often happens to me is that when I force it too much and try to do the creative stuff when I'm not really feeling it, I do something that I'm not too happy about later on, and then I have to rework it, which I hate. It's like the worst. So I always, when I'm feeling this like too much pressure, I go into this like, yeah, let's just focus on this little canister in the back, because I know that I'm not going to change that. You know, worst case scenario, I'm going to use it in different image, you know, that I will do, you know, a few months from now or something. That it's not gonna be like a waste of time, that I just utilize it for, you know, something that might be boring, but kind of like also helps me kind of like take off the pressure of thinking about the stuff that's important in the image.
Yeah, it strikes me. It makes so much sense to me. And just in the creative process, obviously, you know, I am not an artist, but I'll work on different creative projects in terms of putting words together, stories together. It makes so much sense to me, because I think the other way you could go with that, right, is that you start grinding on the passion, right? That you keep the star of the show front and center, and you're either fired up about it or you're not, but you're only focused on the star of the show. And then finally you finish the star of the show, but then you have all the minor details to then do and have to rush at in the end. So I like that you're chipping away, going back and forth when the passion strikes you. Anyway, that just, that hits me as very applicable in the creative sphere. But Philip, are you ready for one of my favorite parts? It's early in origin stories, but it's quickly becoming one of my favorite parts of an interview, of an episode, and that is the lightning round.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not very good at thinking on my feet, so maybe it's gonna be a bit.
But that's the best part. That's the best part of it. There's no pressure whatsoever, and it's just literally say the first thing that comes to mind. Anything from a word to a sentence to, if you want to, go off on a tangent, we can certainly do that and deviate. But are you ready?
Okay. All right. I'm not sure what to expect, so I'm a bit nervous right now.
I'm building it up. It's as suspenseful, actually not even close, as one of your movie trailers, I was going to say. But here we go. Topic number 1, crypto art.
Blockchain.
Perfect. Now you got the spirit. You got the spirit of it. Okay. Topic number 2, the favorite piece of art that is not your own. Your favorite piece of art that is not your own.
Probably. That's hard. I guess. I don't know. I really like 52 Hertz from Cornelius Dammrich.
Mm-hmm.
But if we take a look at the broader kind of spectrum, or the broader, not 3D thing, I really like the Castle in the Pyrenees by Rene Magritte. It's like this floating rock with little castle on it. So I really like that one.
Perfect. Ethereum.
Well, what is his name? Vitalik Buterin?
Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. Legos.
That was the only thing.
That's good. We're going
because I remember when I was doing getting really into crypto, I was following him on Twitter, and he was very vocal about stuff. So I kept reading his name and
It works. Let's go Legos.
Ooh. Oh, it's a bit weird, but Jurassic Park.
Skulls.
Because sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Jurassic Park.
No, because I had when I was a little kid, I was really into dinosaurs, and I would always build these Lego Jurassic Parks, and I would play with that. So it's random association.
Yeah. Skulls.
Billelis.
Nice. Character that you have not created, explored, released, but that you eventually want to.
Bugs Bunny.
Nifty Gateway.
Ooh, I don't know. Probably Tommy, because I've spent so much time chatting with Tommy that he's the face of Nifty Gateway for me.
SuperRare.
Ooh. I mean, art, because it's such artsy platform that always just it's gallery pretty much. It seems to me really fancy NFT kind of thing.
Yeah. What art of yours is being slept on right now?
Ooh. I don't know. To be honest, I feel my art has so much attention, way more than I was ever expecting, that it's quite hard to really say. I don't know. I honestly. I don't know. I guess maybe the Lego piece. That's
my vote. That's my vote. I think it's being slept on. I think it's your dystopian series coming to life for the first time in the crypto art space. I'm super bullish on it. It's a one of one. It's the beginning, right? The beginning of that journey in crypto art. It's one of your first pieces in the dystopian style.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was maybe second. I did one with Game Boy, which I want to eventually release, but I did it so long ago that I don't like it anymore. So I kind of want to polish it up a little bit before I release it. But yeah, this was definitely one of the first ones that kind of got more attention for this sort of style for my name, basically.
Yeah. So we're in alignment on that. That's Childhood Memories on SuperRare, by the way, is where to find that one. What artist is being slept on right now in the crypto art space?
I'm gonna repeat myself, but Cornelius Dammrich.
Okay, perfect.
He's on SuperRare. He has these crazy detailed pieces he spends months on, and yeah, I mean, you know, he's definitely like one of the like very, very respected in like the 3D space.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel that in the crypto space, he still has like people still hasn't kind of like realized like how much effort and time he puts into his pieces, and like not just that, but also thought. So yeah, definitely he needs to get on more people's radar.
All right. Well, he's on mine now. So as soon as we get off, I'll be exploring Cornelius's work.
Nice.
All right. And then last topic of the lightning round, your dream future crypto art collaboration, and you are now banned from using Cornelius, so you have to go in another direction.
Ooh. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of hard. I mean, like I would love to collaborate with like Beeple, because he was like he was like the person, or like not him, but his work, like what convinced me to get like try 3D again, because I still had it in my mind, but I was like, oh, it just takes so much time. It's so slow. So that would be very cathartic to sort of like full circle that like that for me. Yeah, I guess that's my answer there.
I would love to see that. I would love to see that. I thought that, you know, I mentioned when I first found your work as I was exploring writing that thread, you know, with you alongside Billelis, it struck me the dystopian style. And I know that wasn't what the drop was about, but going back into your history and viewing that, it struck me that there are some similarities, right, between your dystopian
sure.
style and some of Beeple's pieces. And the best, like, you're still obviously very unique in what you do to yourself, and then obviously people to people. But you could see it. I would be really, really interested in that collaboration if it were ever to come to fruition.
Or like, oh no, I'm trying to like think if there is like someone else, because like Beeple seems like very like obvious choice for any 3D guy, I reckon. So I'm trying to like think of something like that would be like different, but yeah, I mean maybe like some music artist. But the thing is, like I listen to like such a like I'm not very like very well known sort of things, so I'm not sure if that would really kind of you know, be, if that would make sense to like the listeners, because they probably don't know these guys or something. So
well, it's interesting both ways, right? You could either collaborate with a music artist that you know, you're both huge in your respective spaces, and you come together and create something, you know, dramatic. The other way to do it is obviously, you know, music that you really appreciate. You know, you're kind of leading with your presence and then bringing that in, and maybe, you know, they gain some appreciation from that. Kind of like your search for the dramatic music to pair with your trailer, right?
Yeah. I mean, like the thing is that like I really started liking the tune, so I've used it even in the like second trailer, just like different part of it, because it's like really good tune. I'm like, why the hell is that guy selling it for like $20 on Audio Jungle? This could be like in legit like movie trailer or something.
Gotta bring that guy into the fold, right?
Yeah.
And that's the second one, the second trailer, right? It's for Space Station, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm actually, just because I've rendered it out, I was kind of like, because I released it, I think I did like a still image first in 2016 in like September or maybe October or something. And then I wanted to kind of like make it move.
Mm-hmm.
But I was already on like New Year Eve kind of party thing. So I was like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do it. But then when I was like the next day, I was like really pumped to do it. So I was like a hangover, and I was like doing it on my laptop, like, oh, from like through TeamViewer, like distance screen stuff. And so it wasn't like as polished as I would like it to be. So I was doing little adjustments to it last week. So I rendered it out. It took like 20 hours. And then when I was ready to upload it yesterday, I was like, bloody hell, there is like this glitch in it. So I had to re-render it. So like just before the call, I was like doing double and triple check that it's fixed, and we'll be releasing it on SuperRare. Yeah, I'm not sure if it makes sense in terms of like the timing thing,
Well, theoretically, right? When people are listening to this and watching this, it is out there, right? Theoretically,
it's
it
already
is.
out there. So
Yes, it is on SuperRare. So
it's
you will then have two pieces of art on SuperRare.
This one is animated, and it's like a loop, because I don't want to like get too deep in like some backstory or anything, but you know, when I was a kid, I really remember that whenever I got home from school, I was like so excited to like turn on the PlayStation, like get lost in like some different worlds. So it's kind of like a slight hint at those kind of like memories from those times.
I like it. I'm going to give you a bonus lightning round question because it just popped in my head, and I promised that we had to talk about it today. Japan.
All right. Yeah, I mean Japan. That's because I'm not very, how to say, I'm just like very much, I have very similar mentality to like a lot of what's just like standard in Japanese culture, like standing in a queue, not cutting the queue, not like I waiting for people to get off the train before I get in and stuff like that. But it's quite difficult to be like that in like Western world, because then I'm kind of like a pushover. So it's very easy to get like to feel a bit kind of like not left out, but you know what I mean, kind of like. But in Japan, everyone is like everyone is following these rules and is like that. So I found that very very nice. It was very refreshing to be like, I had this like one story that we went to this shop and I was like, I don't want to buy anything. And then they had like this biggest selection of beers I've seen in Japan since we arrived. Like, oh, hell yeah, I'm getting some beers. So I started getting the beers. It was a pretty big store. And then this like, I don't know, 50, maybe 60-year-old Japanese lady that was working on the tills. She saw me carrying like bunch of beer cans without having like any sort of bag or like the trolley. So she grabbed the basket and brought it to me across the whole store. It was like store filled with people, and she like gave it to me like, I was like mind blown. Like this would never happen in like in here in Prague, or I don't. Maybe it would happen, but generally like the ladies in the stores here are not in the best of mood ever. So stuff like this I really enjoyed, that everything is like very nicely planned, very efficient. Everyone is very polite. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's not polite. Maybe I just, because I don't know any Japanese, they are just like very.
No, it's this great culture of respect. And so back in my my backpacking days, right? I spent 16 days trekking across Japan and experiencing everything. It's funny what you say, that story about going into a shop and having the store owner or someone who worked there bring over a basket to you across the entire store. I had a similar thing happen where I was a bit lost, and I remember going into a store and the shop owner, I didn't even say anything, and she sensed that I was confused in some way, shape, or form. She did not speak good English or any English at all, but I had a map in my hands, and she came over and just through gestures understood what I was trying to do, and she left her shop unattended and walked me over a block down a road to make sure that I took a correct turn. And I was just mind blown as that level of graciousness in travel.
Yeah. I mean, I that's like, also the food is great, but like the culture really struck me the most, I think, from the entire like trip we did there. Was like, this was just so nice. Like, really like, I think that was like the biggest difference I've ever kind of like noticed between when traveling like to a different country. That was probably like the biggest jump in like a very positive direction from like the typical like Western culture, or like the places we usually like I usually go to. So yeah,
I agree.
Enjoy that.
We have that in common. Love for Japan in common. So Philip, what is next? We'll wrap with that. So we've taken a bit of a spin through aspects of your origin story and how you arrived in crypto art and what you've chosen to do first, second, third in crypto art. But what can you say about what might be coming around the corner?
So I will have a drop on Nifty Gateway soon. it's going to be, because the first drop I did was new work, so the next drop is going to be not old work, but it's going to be like a series I did, but I'm trying to give it like breathe some new life into it. I also did planning to do like a little bit of special thing for it, but it's still kind of in the works, so I don't want to like spoil anything in case it doesn't work out, because it's kind of like bit of a bigger kind of commitment, so I'm not sure how it's gonna work out, but it would be great if it did. Then I would love to continue doing more drops on SuperRare. I would kind of like I would like to do like refreshes of some of my favorite pieces from the past, and sort of like gradually catch up with my newer pieces, and then kind of like release those. And then everything's open. I'm definitely going to focus on crypto art a lot more this like in 2021, because I used to do like for, I don't know, since 2016, 17, client work was my kind of like main income. Then I sort of like started more like getting into like investing into stuff. So I had like more of a like kind of like safe security in that form. So I'm not so dependent on client work. And in 2020, due to like the corona and like the markets dropping and everything, the advertising wasn't that great. I mean, I had like fair amount of work, but there was a lot of dead space in between, and I kind of filled it up with personal work, and then like the Nifty Gateway drop, and I gotta say I really had a great time doing that. So now I got back into like more commercial work, and it's just, I mean, it's fine. I kind of enjoy it because I just like doing 3D in general, but it's not it's not like as kind of like freeing as doing your own thing. So in 2021, I'm definitely gonna push for like crypto art as much as I can.
You're going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, definitely.
There's no turning back now.
I'm definitely, I'm in like a couple of weeks, I'm gonna be wearing some like HTC Vive in like some AR space or VR space or something like that. You bet.
I can't wait. I cannot wait to see some of your work in the metaverses. And I can see, I mean, you're just looking back again. I keep going back to the diversity of your talent and how many different concepts you've explored. I can absolutely see, I don't know, you making waves in a metaverse in some, just some insane way in the future.
I mean, that was one of the things I was kind of like playing around with, because I used to try to do some like AR filters on Instagram, but the problem with that was that it was most of the scenes I do are quite heavy in terms of like computing power, that even if I optimize them for like game engine or something, it would be really, it would either lose a lot of detail or it just wouldn't work. Especially on phone, it was like impossible to kind of like find a good balance between it looking nice and being usable, and all these things. So I was actually thinking about maybe trying to do some more kind of like engaging stuff in terms of like VR or something, but I never really messed with that too much. So that's just like one of the things that I always wanted to try, but never really had much of a like sort of like, it never really made sense to do it in terms of like viability or like feasibility with my other work. But maybe with crypto art, who knows, maybe that's something to be explored, and to it could finally be possible to do this sort of stuff.
Eyes on it for future. I just would not be surprised, and how fast things move. A couple months down the road, you're going to be jamming out.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I still have some jobs I need to wrap up. So once those are done, I'm going, full down rabbit hole.
Game on.
Yeah.
Hey, Philip, this has been an absolute pleasure and an honor to have you on Origin Stories. Just going back to the Lego piece in your dystopian series in general, I really encourage people to explore all that you've done, because I think this is one of those unique points in time where you're newer to the scene, I guess, this specific scene. You're newer to Twitter and to casting a lot of your eyes and energy onto Twitter. But sometimes it's very easy to see this extrapolation, right? You look, and myself, let me just speak personally for myself. When I was writing that thread, I very quickly said, you know, Filip's art is beyond. Like I believe in it. I think it's exceptional.
Too kind, thank you.
But sometimes from this perspective, I feel like I sit in a chair where you just see this clean extrapolation that just like is inevitable or is going to happen, and it's going to get there. And I just see, now that your energy is here, now that you're going down the rabbit hole, now that you're, you know, putting some time into Twitter, I think nothing but big things are ahead for you, your art, and really wherever you want to take it. So thank you for spending the time today.
Oh, thanks very much for having me. I really appreciate it. And thanks so much for all the kind words, and like, it's really, really nice of you to say. Yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yes, and Nifty Gateway drops soon.
Soon.